Hey everyone, my name is David Dunbar, or the Theme Park Evangelist. So it's time for another episode or chapter of my life as a working Disney cast member series since my brother is still playing a game downstairs and I don't know when he's going to get done. And then we have to head out to help my parents move into their condo. I did make part of that announcement in my most recent vlog, which is called "I have a big announcement!" exclamation mark. So, if you would like to know more about that, you can find out that information right there in the top right hand corner. There will be a little link that will take you to that vlog, and you can watch me going on a walk around my neighborhood, I guess you could say. And I'm just kind of talking about why I haven't been vlogging as much as I used to. There's been times where I've had a ton of time to vlog, and there's been times where I don't have a ton of time to vlog. And that vlog will explain all that, as well as tell you guys my big announcement, which is that, and also the fact that my brother and I are moving into our own place, and we are sharing a the rental house that we're going to move into, which is in Burlington, Kentucky, with two of my brother's coworkers from the Creation Museum. So you will definitely want to check that vlog out. Anyway, so I did do a life as a working Disney cast member video not too long ago, or vlog, I should say. Of course, on whatever you call it. Oh yeah, basically, how I enjoyed celebrating Thanksgiving at Disney's Hollywood Studios. Now, that was probably more of an exciting vlog to talk about. It made more sense for me to talk about it. And I am keeping it private right now until I get this one done. And then I'm going to make these both public at the same exact time. And the reason for that is because that one is actually after this one. So the reason why I'm saying that is because this one is called Backstage Tours at Walt Disney World. So the very first one that I did was the Tower of Terror, which I actually did in October of 2017. I did do another one. This was, of course, months later, but it doesn't really matter to me. It was, of course, after that one. But the point is, I did do one before, whatever you call it. Oh yeah, before the whole Thanksgiving celebration. But it's all good. So I have posted some vlogs, and you will be able to find them up there in the top right hand corner. I will post the links to both of my backstage tour secrets, the two rides that I did get a chance to go and see, and it's going to be a lot more thorough, detail oriented than what I'm about to talk to you guys about, of course. And of course, those vlogs you're going to see are a lot more recent after the whatever you call it. Well, they're a lot further, they're a lot longer ago, but they're a lot more recent in my memory. As in, I literally just vlogged about it right after I did this stuff. Like, for example, I'm about to talk to you guys about the Tower of Terror, which is one of the places I did get to see as a former Disney cast member. And I happened to go to an older IHOP location in Central Florida, in Lake Wales, Florida. And that's exactly where I did that vlog. So at least I do have some kind of video footage to prove that I did used to go to that location. There did used to be an IHOP there a long time ago. And then they closed that location down. They moved to a bigger, newer location that I don't like as much off of Highway 27. And I must admit it is bigger and nicer, but honestly, it's just not as nostalgic as the original location. But that's not the point of my vlog. I just happen to remember doing that one there, and then I did another one on the Haunted Mansion. I don't remember exactly where I filmed that. I have to go back and look. But that was something else I did get to do. That was, of course, around the same time I was working at Magic Kingdom, but I was still working at Hollywood Studios as a food and beverage cast member because I still had the ability to pick up shifts there. So to explain that, basically, whenever you transfer, you don't fully lose that ability if you left under good terms, that is. If you do an internal transfer, you go on the Disney employee website called the Hub, you do an internal transfer, and it gets approved, and you move over, you technically still are allowed to pick up shifts at your former location, whether you go through a Facebook group, whether you go on the Disney company website and you pick up shifts that way. You can still go back to your location, you can still pick up costumes. Of course, you're not allowed to keep those costumes. They strongly recommend that you bring like a change of clothes, and like once you're done work, you keep that change of clothes like in your car or something. You exit, you go back in, and you change into your clothes, like your regular clothes or whatnot, and then you return that costume, and then you head out, or you try to get it back at the earliest convenience, which they usually give you about 24, 48 hours if you no longer work at that location. So I was like, hey, why not? It's like every now and then, and it gave me the ability to go see my friends. It gave me some extra money. I was still able to remember all that good stuff, and I was still able to be part of that backstage tour because management at the time was like, yeah, you still technically are allowed to work here, so we don't see why you can't be part of our Haunted Mansion backstage tour. So it was just one of those things. And I do remember for a fact that I was not working at Hollywood Studios at the time when it happened. I mean, for all I know, I might have to go back and look. But I do know for a fact that did happen with Dinosaur, because I was gonna go do that. Maybe that's what I was thinking about. But for all I know, the Haunted Mansion thing happened around the same exact time. So for all I know, the Tower of Terror one might have happened right about now, 3 years ago, or September, and then the Haunted Mansion happened in October. More than likely, that's what ended up happening, because they intentionally planned the whole Haunted Mansion backstage tour around Halloween, because they really wanted to make it like a really good Halloween that year. So anyway, what do I know? So the whole point of this vlog, of course, is to kind of give you guys a little enlightenment, and I'm going to do it very briefly, quickly. I'm not going to go into excessive detail. I did at least want to give you that little bit of information you probably did not know. So, of course, there was like a piece of paper in the break room. I am going to add on information. I was starting to ramble on a little bit, but I was like, I better explain. But yeah, there was a piece of paper, and well, maybe not the break room is not the word I'm looking for. We're at Meyer, we need your discount code. Oh, I better text my mom, let her know what my information is. Just bear with me for a minute. Use my phone number and then text her my phone number, which I'm not going to say out loud, because then I'll get all these spam calls. Pin. Feel like I should have left a space there. Of course, he's trying to call me when. Oh, okay. He must have just seen the text. It's like, I literally am sending it right now. That's too funny. Anyway, so while I'm checking this YouTube video, to see if it uploaded, and it should be there by now. Yep, it's there, alright. Well, that's good. But yeah, more or less, what one thing I forgot to mention in my video back a few years ago is exactly how I got part of that whole whatever you call it or yeah, how I got to do the whole backstage tour. I didn't go into the full detail information. What? I just texted mom. Now, so of course he calls my brother. Figures. But yeah, you see, I'm at Hollywood Studios, and my two locations, of course, if you guys don't remember, were Min and Bill's Dockside Diner, or just Dockside Diner now, as they changed the name recently, and Oasis Canteen. So, of course, the main location for us was Min and Bell's Dockside Diner, and there was a piece of paper basically saying, "Oh, we're going to do the Tower of Terror. We're going to do a backstage tour, and it will start at 6 in the morning." And they said, "Please wear casual clothes and closed-toed shoes." I don't remember if I was working that day. I think the Tower of Terror one, I was um, working that day, and it was like hours before I had to start. So I just basically brought my regular clothes with me, and well, I mean, I wore my regular clothes obviously, but I brought my costume with me. I figured, well, I'll just go in the cast building later and I'll change. But I put my name down, and I just had to wait for the day to come around. We had to meet in front of Minabelle's Dockside Diner. There was like absolutely nobody that was there when I first got there, and I'm like, okay, where is everybody? And the manager that was in charge of it, she was like, oh, this is weird. There's like nobody here. So we waited around for like a little while, and finally she's like, well, I guess this is all we have. So the few of us that were there walked over to Tower of Terror, and the trainer TJ. Now, here's a funny story about TJ. Now, I'm not talking about the TJ I know. This is the TJ that works at Tower of Terror. He's been there for a long time. If you've ever seen the painting of the creepy looking bellhop at the Tower of Terror gift shop, that's him. And they thought his image was perfect because he looks so sinister. So, hey, you never know. It's just one of those things. And you know, when we finally did get over, I guess they got the manager got some text messages from some of the employees. Oh, we're coming, and the trainer was like, oh, no problem. He's a really nice guy. So we stood around and waited even longer, and of course, this is slightly an inconvenience for them. So, of course, whenever they do these ride tours for the cast members, they have to basically have a few cast members come in even earlier that may or may not be working later that day. I mean, you never know. Of course, they're getting paid to do this, which is nice. Excuse me. And these guys are no way, shape, or form can be interfering with the well, I shouldn't say interfering, but these guys in no way, shape, or form can be allowed to work on the whole opening procedures. So now that I have the whole attractions experience, now back then when I did this backstage tour information, I didn't really understand any of this, but now that I've, been talking about, oh dear, I think my face froze. Okay, there it goes. It caught up. I was like, oh, that's not good. But yeah, now that I've done the whole attractions thing, I completely understand, what they how they felt and why they kind of have to rush to do these things and why you have to get there so early in the morning and why they have to like pull two cast members basically to come and do this. So, for example, of Tower of Terror needs a lot of time to test the whole opening procedure. And usually, one of the very first things that you do whenever you do a walk through the ride, especially if it involves going through the ride areas, that is one of the very first things you have to do. And of course, you can't have your IDs on you when you're going through the ride. And the reason for this is because this is a position called tower. This is their way of knowing who's going through the ride, because they basically look at this box with all these ID cards locked onto it, and they can determine based on all those, based on that box of ID cards, who's in the ride and who isn't. So if they see that no ID cards are on there and been given the all clear to turn on the ride and let it run, then they can do that. Now, if someone made a really big mistake where there's still a cast member that's just wandering around, they happen to have their ID on them, well, a lot of people are going to lose their job that day, unfortunately. Not to mention Disney could get in a lot of trouble for it. And then that's going to get on the news and all that good stuff. So yeah, there's a reason why Disney has to be very careful with everything. And I know it sounds like a pain. I know it sounds frustrating that you have to rush right through walking through the whole ride, its experience itself. Like, any areas where the ride path is, you have to walk through quickly, and it's mainly because of the fact that not only does the ride itself need time to warm up, like Test Track literally needed an hour and a half to 2 hours just to get the computers up to speed to be able to get the cars running as fast as they should be. And I know that sounds crazy because every time you go, you're seeing the cars going to 65 miles per hour. That's because they spent 2 hours that morning warming up. And, after being closed all night long, sorry, an itch. After the ride had been turned off basically all night long, or powered down is really the better word to use. The ride needs time to get itself going, and again, it's, like turning on your car first thing in the morning. Your car may not run as well as it has been after it's been, running for a little while, especially when it's cold. Or, when you first wake up in the morning, you don't run as well as you are, like, halfway through the day or something like that. Or in some cases, some people, are really good about getting up in the morning. They're, fully energized. In that case, those same people are basically what it's like for a major ride to start up in the morning when it comes to the nighttime, because those same people are, slowing down. Well, and this is where rides don't make a lot of sense, especially major ones. Rides are actually struggling the most at the beginning of the day, more so than at the end of the day, because I don't know what it is about being shut down all night long. It's just one of those, really dumb things that if a ride is closed all night long or powered down all night long, it's going to need that much more time to start up. Imagine what it's like when a ride has been closed for months, like during the pandemic, and they had to come and restart all these rides. Could you imagine how long it took for Disney to get all these rides running the same way they were supposed to be running again? It could take a long time, and there's no guarantee the ride's going to be able to run by the time, opening day or whatever is supposed to happen, unless you give yourself plenty of time to get over there and look at the ride. For all the ride itself might have a lot of mechanical issues for being shut down for so long. So yeah, hopefully that makes a little bit more sense why Disney is so safety critical and why they have to basically rush you right through the ride path itself. And here comes the funny thing with Tower of Terror, for example. There was surprisingly a lot of information to learn within the lobby area, which is part of the queue line. And I couldn't believe how new some of the furniture they had was in there. And then there's a few pieces of furniture in there that was like super old. And some of it was even donated, which is even crazier, if not a lot of it was donated. So, like, Disney got a lot of that furniture and they were pretty cheap. So, hey, I'm not going to complain about that, that's for sure. And, we did get to ride the ride without the audio, which was really cool. It's actually very easy for Tower to do. They just have to press a button. It doesn't interfere with their, testing whatsoever. Because they've got to test a ride for at least 2 hours, and they can run the audio or not run the audio, and it doesn't interfere with the, them opening the ride or whatnot. Now, of course, if you were riding it as a guest during the daytime and the audio went out, yeah, it's going to ruin it, but, for a ride operator, from an operator ride standpoint, no. Turning the audio off or on doesn't mean anything to them. It's just called, the ride's got to run some way, shape, or form. As long as it runs properly, that's all that matters to them. And, sometimes the audio does go out, and the employee may not even have anything to do with it, the cast member. It's just one of those technical things that just happens. And this has happened many times on Transformers where, like, I'll be halfway through the ride and the audio will just go out. Now you might think, oh no, something's wrong with the ride. Well, it's not a major thing, but it's one of those things that's called, it does ruin the ride experience, but it doesn't affect the ride itself. If the audio goes out, that means that there's an electronic issue, but it's not a major one. Now, the moment that you start noticing that the ride itself is vibrating really rapidly, or you start noticing smoke or something along those lines, that something that's part of the ride or something that's not part of the ride that ends up being part of the ride, yeah, you know that something's wrong, especially if you've been on that ride many times. Then you know for a fact that something is definitely wrong with that ride. So just keep that in mind the next time you go on a ride as well. And basically, the last thing I can talk about is, like, I did do the Haunted Mansion, of course, but I'm just going to talk about the Tower of Terror, just because there's so much information to learn. But I was even surprised that the gift shop alone had a ton of information, and I was like, wow, I didn't think about that. So when it comes to the Haunted Mansion, though, the only thing I can tell you guys is we did have a little bit more time to walk through the entire ride. And one reason is because we got to start a little earlier, which is a good thing. Not to mention, it's not a major ride. It's not one of those rides that takes a lot of effort to keep it going or to start it up. It literally just needs to be powered on, and then you just have to press and hold the button to start up the ride, and then the Omni Mover system just starts running. And that's really all there is to the ride. There's a lot to some of these rides, like Tower of Terror, Rock and Roller Coaster Test Track, that make the ride possible. And that's why some of those rides need more time to warm up. And that's why sometimes it's harder to do tours on those rides unless you get there like ridiculously early and you like rush right through it. Versus some of those more basic rides, like Haunted Mansion, is actually more of a basic ride than you think it is. Even though it's really, really cool. Don't get me wrong, it's an extremely cool ride, but it's such a basic ride operating system that it does not take a lot of effort for the computers to get the ride going. Therefore, it allows more time for walking through the entire thing. And, the trainers are going to do their absolute best no matter what ride you're going to ensure you see everything in a timely manner, but also to ensure that, it's also a pretty good fast-paced time frame that they can still ensure that, you can see pretty much everything without feeling too rushed or anything. And, something like Haunted Mansion, of course, you're going to have a little bit more time on, which makes sense. And hopefully I explained this all pretty well. I know it's probably one of those really confusing things And, it's one of those things, unless you've operated a Walt Disney World ride, you may or may not understand. Like Buzz Lightyear, I had a chance to operate. And honestly, it was one of those rides that you could easily walk through the entire thing and spend as much time as you need to, because the ride itself really did not take that long to power up or anything. In fact, the whole opening procedure didn't take more than an hour, if I remember correctly. So it's definitely one of those rides that um, I know that Disney would probably not be too worried about walking people through. And the ironic part is, it's one of those rides that you have to ask yourself, is it really worth walking through it? Because the biggest difference between walking through Buzz Lightyear with the lights on or off is the fact that with the lights on, you can clearly see that it's a ride and it's not like a Buzz Lightyear universe, and you can see that there's gates there to protect you from falling off, which is really cool. I did get a chance to see for myself operating Buzz Lightyear that even if you step your foot on like in a certain place, or if you accidentally drop something in a specific spot, or if you decide I'm not going to close one of these cars, because we have to close every single one, and for a good reason. When it gets to a certain spot, there's a motion sensor that detects whether that space cruiser shield is still open or not. Now, I wish they had it automatic, but they don't. It's actually all manual, and I guess could actually do it him or herself. As long as that space cruiser shield is closed, once it gets to a specific sensor and it detects that it is closed, the ride will keep going. But the moment that we let a space cruiser shield not close, the ride will automatically just stop. And we actually have to do a really complicated process of restarting the ride. So it's definitely one of those things. Yeah, you don't want it to happen unless you can avoid it. And the funny thing is, it doesn't take a lot of effort for the computers to start the ride for the day, but it does take a lot of effort to restart the ride. And the reason why is because the ride always starts out really slow, and it takes at least 30 seconds for the system to go back to normal speed, as crazy as it is. And unfortunately, that ride is notorious for going slow, and there is lots and lots of reasons why that ride is going slow. And I can guarantee you guys, the biggest reason why your favorite ride might slow down, especially like Haunted Mansion or Buzz Lightyear, is because there's so many 401 parties, which is basically our term for, or Disney's term for a handicap party that is trying to get on the ride. Or there's also, the possibility that a trainee is struggling with something, and the trainer needs to slow down the ride for the trainee. So most of the time, though, it's a handicap party, but on the odd occasion, it's also there for the trainee as well. So, Disney is very cool about training people. Now, there's not going to be a lot of training at Disney right now because of the pandemic, but, when I was there, of course, there was a lot of training that was going on. It was like constant. It's crazy. So, yeah, that pretty much concludes my whole Disney Hollywood Studios portion. So, I wanted to talk to you guys about what it was like to work at Tomorrowland next. This is what will begin, my whole, working in attractions portion. You kind of already got to hear my whole attractions spiel. That was basically my intro to that portion, which I think is really cool that I got to do that. And I'm really looking forward to talking to you guys about what it was like to work at Walt Disney World at the Magic Kingdom and attractions, and being in Tomorrowland, and what kind of atmosphere it was, and especially Tomorrowland Speedway. Tomorrowland Speedway is going to be really interesting to talk about. But I have a lot of different chapters that will cover all of Tomorrowland, and you'll get to hear what it was like for me to work at Animal Kingdom because I've done a little bit there, and also what it was like to work at Epcot at Test Track and all that fun stuff. So yeah, there's lots to learn about in the attractions department. Just give it time, and you will learn all kinds of good information. I apologize, I'm so behind on this whole series, but the pandemic happened, and unfortunately it threw me behind. So I will see you guys in the next vlog, and always remember, you can do all things through Christ who strengthens you. Have a great day. Peace out.